I'm Judy Stiles. Thank you for joining me this week on Newsmakers. Well, as the weather warms, people are heading outdoors, and one spot in this area that is a favorite is the Wildcat Park area and Wildcat Glades. And today we're going to visit with the Friends of Wildcat, and joining me we have Robin Standridge and Cameo Harrington. Thank you for being here today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Let's start off when people hear the term Wildcat Glades Friends Group. What are we talking about? So I guess, Robin, I'll let you explain.
Okay, the Wildcat Glades Friends Group, we're a group, we're a not-for-profit. We actually do conservation education, and we have lots of volunteer opportunities out at Wildcat Park in Joplin.
Right. And so how long has the group been around? People want to know, when did you start? You know, we've heard of it, but how long has it been here?
We started actually, this group came about after National Audubon pulled out of the Nature Center. So many of the members and the volunteers of Wildcat Glades Friends Group are actually previous Audubon volunteers. So that would have been in 2017 is when, in the latter part of the year, we decided, okay, it's time. It's time to come up with a group that can stay here, a local group. So we started in the end of 2017, and then we became incorporated in 2018. And so here we are.
So here you are in 2020, starting off with the program, and you were able to, you say, stress education, letting people appreciate what they're seeing there.
Absolutely. We do lots of education programs, and our mission is to get people outside. Let's learn a little bit about nature. Let's fall in love with nature, so we'll take care of nature, and just have a good time.
Now, Cameo, I know you're involved with the group, and as you mentioned, nonprofit, so you have a structure with a board of directors. So.
Yes, yeah, we actually formed the board of directors probably the first part of 2018, once we realized, you know, what was actually going to happen with Audubon leaving, what was going to happen to the building, what was going to happen to the programs that that organization had been running for so long, and so we kind of took authority over those programs and decided, well, we think that this is so important for our community, so we're going to do what we need to do to keep the education part of it going. Right. So we've got an 11-member board. Is there 11 of us? Yes. Is there 11 of us?
It depends on the year.
Yeah, exactly. That are very dedicated. You know, as Robin said, a lot of them were Audubon volunteers before, but we've developed some great relationships with the city, with Missouri Department of Conservation, who now runs the building, with the county. You know, we've really worked hard to make sure that we have a lot of relationships in place so that we can help wherever we're needed.
And the whole history, I guess, of the center, whether it was Audubon from the beginning, it really has kind of been a partnership. The city property in the park, you have the public lands.
Absolutely a partnership, and it's vital. It's vital. It makes sense that we have a local group to represent the local interest. We partner with Newton County as well, because the Friends Group, we actually have a memorandum of understanding with Newton County commissioners that we will take care of Reddings Mill Bridge. So our volunteers make sure that that is policed and that the trash is taken off of the bridge, and we kind of maintain that too. And then our partnership with the city, we work alongside with Joplin Parks and Rec to make sure that the trails are taken care of. And we also have a small area in the middle of the park. It used to be the ball fields.
Right, people remember years ago you went there to play ball.
Yes, we call it lovingly the Village, so it's Wildcat Village, and that is an area that we are in charge of. We have a few outbuildings there right now, and then coming in the spring we will have an education cottage. So we'll be able to do programs inside of that building, get our preschoolers out of the weather when needed, and we'll be doing things like nature, yoga in nature. So that'll be a lot of fun, and then we'll be able to have our birthday parties again, where we have a few live animals, and then be able to have parties for.
So it's a pretty good sized building. You're talking about it's going to have some space for people to move around.
A little bit, just around 864 square feet. I've said that number a few times.
Right, you know the numbers, the size.
And we are going to have a few ways to show the general community how to preserve energy. We're going to have solar panels on the building itself, and that's pretty exciting for us. So we had a very generous donor that said, I think this is important. Let me pay for the solar panels. So we were like, okay, thank you very much. And so that's what we're going to do.
So it took some good support financially to make these types of things.
You know, it really did. We've had tremendous support, and you know, I think it's really a testament to Joplin that when there's something like this that the community believes in, they really come out to help support. So we had a donor that helped us get water down to the village. You know, I mean, that was a huge challenge for us, was the amount of money it was going to cost to make that happen. So we had that. We've got the solar panels. We've got some help with what was the other? The electricity?
And Missouri American Water.
Yes, and Missouri American Water is the one that we actually got a grant for the building itself. So, you know, when we started out with this little bitty building that we were going to have, and it has grown tremendously, but it's so exciting because, you know, as Robin said, especially when the Conservation Center was closed while they were doing their remodel, we kind of had to just hop from place to place. We were doing things in pavilions. We have a great relationship with Empire Market. They were letting us do some of the programs
your programs on the road, right?
Exactly. So we kind of went wherever we could. And so our education committee is very excited to have a home and have our own location that we can really get people to come to us and really be able to enhance a lot of the education programs.
Right. Well, I know you mentioned education programs, and just recently one of our students went out on a Saturday when you had one of these programs going on, dealing with bees and building bee houses. So I'd like to show the audience that story, and we'll kind of a little more information. We'll come back and talk some more specifics about the center. So let's take a look at that package and find out what's happening at the Glades.
With spring being just around the corner, you can expect more people going outside for a breath of fresh air. Recently, I got to talk to Val Frankowski and Lauren Kolpin about the education programs offered at the center.
We're going to build some solitary bee houses so people can install them in their yard and begin to learn a little bit about the 415 native bees that are flying around Missouri, and maybe encouraging them to stick around, because just as we know, honeybees are having some problems. Native bees are as well, but they haven't been as well studied.
We offer an abundance between us and the Missouri Department of Conservation. Our education programs are endless. Last month we talked about ducks and what things in nature do for Valentine's Day. We talk about hibernation, habitats, what trees do, why they lose their leaves. Next month we're going to be making gourmet s'mores.
Wildcat Glades covers 27 acres of land and offers walking trails, parking, boat ramps, and of course the Conservation Center and gift shop, where the Friends of Wildcat Glades operates.
There's lots of things to do. There is the center inside. We have snakes, turtles. Every now and then we have a quirky rabbit that comes in. The Shoal Creek Nature Center staff, the Missouri Department of Conservation, they've got the fishes and also their own displays to do. You can hike the trail. It's about 3.3 miles. Go up on the bluff. There's a boat ramp where you can fish or put a canoe in or a kayak. They can visit us on Facebook. They can send us a message. They're always more than welcome to stop in here at the Wildcat Glades Nature Store. Me and our executive director, Robin Standridge, are in and out of the building quite a bit, or any of our volunteers can point you in the right direction.
While also showing children how to build a house for bees, Val also told me what to avoid to help them as well. Also learned that you don't have to have a big property to help bees as well.
Keep that special sauce of pesticides to a minimum or eliminate it in their yard, and also plant native plants, because native bees evolved with native plants and know them best. If I take you to a foreign country, you're going to maybe turn up your nose at some of the strange food that's around, as do some of the bees when we start bringing in special hybrids that have no nectar, have no pollen. That's not very good for encouraging them to continue. And they also are very helpful to honeybees in agricultural situations, and they're starting to plant strips of pollinator plants alongside fields in order to get that help for honeybees.
So if you're in an apartment complex and you have a balcony or a space that you can have a windowsill set of flowers, putting those native flowers in, that's always a good food source for them to come and go. You can also put out, birds have a bath, but bees also have a bath, so a small dish with some rocks in it where the bees can rest. They actually do need to get a drink just like everything else does. You can utilize that. Pocket prairies, if you want to talk to your building about putting something together, or including some bee houses like we're making right now up on your deck.
Although some may have second thoughts about attracting bees near their home, Val assured me that it's well worth it.
Well, you know, there are 250 million flowering plants that require pollination, and those plants provide food for wildlife from songbirds to black bears. So that's pretty important. 1 out of every 3 mouthfuls of food that we eat depends on a pollination event. And we want to keep the wildlife around. We want to keep around. We like to keep seeing the flowers. Less lawn is the beginning, because lawns are really food deserts. And I think a quote from E.O. Wilson that is important: insects are the little things that run the world. If humans disappeared, insects would have no problem. But if insects disappeared, humans would be in big trouble very shortly.
So if you're looking to do something this spring break, why not give the trails at Wildcat a stroll? Or plant some native flowers to help out the world's hardest workers. Reporting for Newsmakers, I'm Dylan Nobley.
And you can see by that package there's a lot happening at one of your educational programs. It really looked like I had a good turnout that day.
Excellent.
Well, let's talk a little bit about the relationship between the Missouri Department of Conservation. You talk about the building is theirs, but you're having the programs, and that might help, for some clarification for people.
Okay, we are partners with the Missouri Department of Conservation. We rent a space, we rent the Nature Gift Store, and we also rent an office. My office is in the building. But we are partners. We coordinate programs. Sometimes we have programs at the same time. Sometimes it's a partnership event. Earth and Arbor Day, May the Forest be with you, coming up in April. That is much so a partnership event with several different people at the table. But we are separate entities, but we're friends.
Right.
We like each other. And there are things that the state can do that we don't have the resources or the capacity to do. And then vice versa. There are things that we can do, being an independent group, that sometimes the state can't do. Okay. So we work in tandem. It's a great relationship. We really appreciate it. And so if it's confusing, people just need to ask. It's a great relationship and something that we are really happy to be a part of.
And we saw the gift shop that you operate then, and that helps proceeds for your organization.
The proceeds from the nature store, they actually go right back into conservation education and some of our other programs. We try really hard to keep our programs free to the public, because our mission is to help people fall in love with nature. So how do you do that? You remove all barriers. So that's really what the proceeds go for. So whenever people need a unique gift, we really would like for them to shop out at the nature store.
Great. Now, you mentioned your programs, and we saw one of the programs happening. How do people find out about these? How do you get the word out to what you're having?
We do a lot of advertising. Website, Facebook is probably the best. Excuse me. As with many things in this world today, Facebook is one of the best ways to really find out our website. And then they're in the newspaper as well. All of our programs are listed in the newspaper. And, we do 4 to 6 programs a month, different programs, and we may have some of those programs multiple times. So we try to schedule things out about 3 months in advance so that we always have an ongoing list of things that are coming up.
Now, a program like what we saw in that video, do they need to register in advance? Or how do you handle the crowd, obviously? You're going to have a lot of people wanting to see these things.
Well, it's very helpful to us if they go to our Facebook page and click on the ticket link on the actual event, and that's going to lead you to a Sign Up Genius, and that helps us to be prepared.
You have to have the materials they're going to be working with, right?
We do. We have had programs that we've reached capacity, so we've had to have another class, and then sometimes we've had to turn a few people away. We don't like to do that, but it's just so that everyone can hear and can get the right amount of information and the correct information. That's the only reason why we would turn people away.
So do you see the new building giving you an opportunity to expand programs, or maybe not have conflicts because the building's being used for something else?
Exactly, and a lot of times we try to get outside when it's beautiful out. Of course, we want to be out in nature, but if it's windy, that's what one of our education folks, talks about, having to chase paper all the way down the creek, and that kind of defeats the purpose. So, having the education cottage is going to allow us to have classes in there, but then still have the space outside that we can kind of get in and out. Those classes can take part inside and outside at both times. And it does allow us, when the Conservation Center has their classrooms booked, it allows us another place. Plus, as Robin said, you know, we used to do a great business with birthday parties and those types of events, and we just haven't had the opportunity to do it because we haven't had a location. Right. So really being able to, I think that's one of the things that a lot of people really missed, is having that as an option.
For the community at large to say, we'd like to have something, can we use your facility for that?
Exactly. So, you know, and then when we do special fundraising events, you know, we've got photos with Trevor coming up, which is our rabbit that has been with us for many years. And, you know, at this point, we don't have a location for that. So we go back to our friends at Empire Market and they let us borrow a space, but we're excited to have a space that we'll be able to do those types of things at as well. Great.
Well, I know in addition to the story we just saw, we have some pictures of those areas. So while we're talking, we can look at some of those photos, because that was obviously, we recorded this in the wintertime. I know the whole seasons, as you can see, when the spring comes out and summer comes out, it looks entirely different.
Yes, it does. And it's a beautiful area, you know. As Robin was saying, working with the trail maintenance has been huge for a lot of our volunteers. And, you know, she's in the state right now of trying to figure out projects for a lot of volunteer groups as well, and the trail maintenance and getting out helping is a huge part of that.
Explain what's happening here.
That is, that's an outdoor musical instrument. That beautiful baby is my granddaughter. She's out there just having a good time. That's in the nature play area.
So it's like a xylophone with wood.
It is, it is. There are a lot of things that nature has musical instruments. We talked about the peepers on the break and the little frogs, and so that's something that we want the kids to see, is that there are a lot of different elements out in nature.
So you see nature, you hear nature, you're experiencing that and tying that all together. So a lot of emphasis on programs for kids. You mentioned preschool programs earlier as well.
We have preschool programs, we have nature explorers. So preschool programs are ages 3 to 6, and then ages 7 to 12 are nature explorers. Another beautiful example of someone out, that's another grandbaby planting some native plants. Those are very important to us, and something that
so people can get a hands-on help this area by planting out there as well.
Yes, the volunteer groups this spring, they will be doing quite a bit of planting, and they'll be building some different things.
And of course, birds. You talked about Audubon earlier, but here's some, baby birds. So you get to see what's involved there as well.
We participate in nature in the Nest Watch, and so we're monitoring the birds in the area.
And these are birds that you can see at the center.
Yes, yes. Everyone needs to come out and bird watch at the center. Very therapeutic.
And I bet a lot of people, you mentioned the trails, you find a lot of people just come out and maybe they're not there for an education program, they just like to walk the trails.
It's very important to get outside. There are a lot of health benefits to getting outside, and so we highly encourage that. We highly encourage you to take a bag with you, and when you see trash, pick it up.
Right, help keep the trail clean for others, right?
Keep the trail clean and make sure that trash does not go into the waterways.
Right.
So yes, get outside. There are about 4.5 miles of trail out at Wildcat.
And there are guides if they don't know where to go, which direction. You have signage and ways
we
that
do have signage, and we do have maps up in the center right now. We're in the process of making a better map, but those will get you where you need to go.
Okay, so if somebody's not used to do a lot of walking, they can start off on a small trail and build their way up to the big path.
Absolutely.
And tying that together. Well, it sounds like a lot of opportunities. So let's talk a little bit more about some of the programs. You mentioned things coming up, and April is Earth Day. There's something special coming up in that month?
Yes, we have, it's May the Forest Be With You. That is a program that is combining we're with Joplin Parks and Recreation, Liberty Utilities, of course, Missouri Department of Conservation, and a slew of other people, Master Naturalists, the Wildcat Glades Chapter of Master Naturalists. We are combining all of these groups, and we're just going to have a great time.
So it's going to be a community-wide event everyone can come out to.
Huge community-wide event. It's a great place to get your native plants that day. There'll be some for sale, but also if you run the race, you will get a plant as a part of your stuff that you get after the race.
And that might be a question. People say, well, you're planting native plants, and this emphasis is let's plant around our homes native plants, but where do you get the native plants? You're going to give that opportunity that day.
Yes, and if anyone is curious about where to get the native plants, they just need to contact us. We can put them in touch with people that do have native plants. It's extremely important to plant the correct thing in your yard.
As we heard in the soundbite in the package, that you want to plant the things that the local animals and insects are used to having, not something
Yes.
strange, basically.
Very true. Very true. You want to give them the right food.
So education of all ages, you have the youngsters, you have programs for senior citizens, so some people maybe that, well, I say not that able-bodied, but the older people in the community as well.
We really try to make all of our programs very open. With the kids, we do a lot more crafts and a lot more hands-on things.
Right.
The Nature Explorers, that's really a new age segment that we've been working on over the past year because they're a group that kind of you get the little kids and then you get the older kids.
Right.
You kind of have missed this, and so it's been a really fun group to really expand the programming that we're doing for them. And all of our programs are almost all sponsored. So as Robin said, almost everything that we do is free. Unless it's a fundraiser.
Right.
But we really try to encompass anybody who wants to come out can come out and enjoy.
Now you mentioned fundraiser. I know you traditionally have had a big summer fundraiser, and I know we're in the winter time now, but you still have programs for that to help support.
Cameo is working with me on a very large program, Wild 417, coming up in June. It's where art and nature collide is our tagline for that. It's going to be a very unique runway show where people will dress, hair, makeup, and costume like anything that is native to the 417 area.
Oh boy,
So,
so it can be some interesting.
it's going to be very interesting. We do have people that are already planning their costumes. So
Is this something that people make reservations and can pay to attend then?
you'll pay to attend, and you'll pay to attend, which would be great. So
Right,
you'll
to help.
see-
That's the fundraising portion, obviously,
Yes,
right?
yes.
And the entertainment is watching what people have done.
Yes, absolutely. We'll also have some food that is made from things that you can find in the 417 area. So we're working with some local caterers
Right.
to have those recipes that are made with food you
Local
can find
ingredients.
right here. Yes.
Okay, so this is something we can look for down the road on the calendar. You talk about calendar of events and things that are coming up.
Yes, in June. So we're excited about that. And then Water Festival will follow not too long after that. In August is our annual August, right?
Yes.
And that's where we see
I was like, ooh.
everybody's in the creek doing the races. and
Yes,
things,
that's
right?
when we do the cardboard boat races. We have a lot of booths all about conservation and water conservation, and the inner tube races. We try to that one's always a fun one. I mean, lots of different activities
people
going
get
on
involved
for
with that as well.
Water Festival.
Right.
Yes.
We mentioned membership. What if someone is watching is interested? Well, how can I get involved? How can they become one of the friends?
You can support us financially by becoming a member. I mean, that's an annual membership. It's relatively inexpensive, but those dollars go into the program support. We keep a tight budget because we want to
Use the programs.
We want to support the programs. But if you'd like to become a volunteer, that's a step further. So you donate your time. You can be a volunteer and a member at the same time, or one or the other. You don't have to do all of them.
So it probably takes a lot of people to do some of these events. They're behind the scenes.
Yes. Yes.
Water Festival, we see around 100 volunteers. Ghostly Glades, which is in October, we had around 45 to 50 volunteers. So, and our volunteers work. It's not something fluffy.
No.
They put in a lot of work. Like Val, that's on the segment, she's a volunteer, and she put in hours of preparation for that particular class.
And so it's different types of volunteering. Someone might say, well, I can't pull the weeds, I can't get down on my knees and do things, but they can do other things.
Yeah, I mean, we even have opportunities to volunteer in the nature store. I mean, that's a huge opportunity for our volunteers. I'm very retail shopping based and not as much planting based, and so that's the kind of thing that if I'm going to volunteer, that's where I would love to volunteer, is go and make things pretty and sell some stuff. And so that's a great opportunity as well as we've got a lot of different committees that we've got an education committee that oversees all of the programs, and we've got our volunteer groups for each of our fundraisers, those types of things. So lots of great opportunities for volunteers.
And I know we saw it earlier, but you have the Facebook page, which is
Yes.
probably a good way, and then you also have a website as well.
Yes.
Right. So they can get information from either of those sites. And if somebody's watching, they tuned in and said, well, how can I contact them? What's the best way to get in touch with you or to reach you?
You can either give us a call. Our phone number is on both the Facebook page and on the website, or feel free to message us. You can actually leave a text message by using our phone number. That's a really easy way to do that. So those are probably the best ways to get in touch with us. But by all means, just
reach out and ask questions.
Reach out and ask questions. You can even call the Shoal Creek Conservation Center, and they will patch you through to my extension.
Right. And of course, we're coming up on spring and summer. We'll see a lot more people traveling. Do you get a lot of visitors who may be driving down the interstate and say, let's see the sign, let's go down there and take a look?
We really do. We see a lot of visitors. At one point, for the trails, we saw over 50,000 people on the trails. So inside the nature center, you see approximately the same amount of people. That was, we don't have the stats for right now since we've reopened.
Right, trying to
but we estimate that it'll be much the same. But we have international travelers. It's just amazing how many people actually stop in to visit.
So it's benefiting not only the people here in Southwest Missouri, but people across the country, around the world that are stopping through and learning a little bit about how they're here.
Absolutely.
Definitely.
Absolutely. And we'd love to have them come in. We hear stories. We hear great stories. And stop in the nature store and tell us your birding stories. We have
A lot of common interest there with
Yes,
people.
very much
they're
so.
seeing here and so forth. Well, what do you enjoy the most working with the group?
Oh my goodness, the caliber of volunteers is absolutely through the roof. They are phenomenal people. They are the salt of the earth. They are the people who love this environment. They love nature, and they love to talk about it. So they are just extremely great people.
I can imagine your board members as well will have that love and that passion.
Very much so. You know, that's what I was raised with, a deep love for this community and how we can make it better. And I believe that everybody on the board, and as Robin said, our volunteers very much feel that same way. You know, we're all just here to do what we can to make the community better and to provide a great space for our community.
So as we wrap up the show, you would invite anyone who's watching that hasn't been there, definitely come out and see it, and anybody who's been there before, come back.
Definitely, please do.
All right. Well, I'd like to thank both of you for being on the program with me today and sharing some information.
Thank you.
And I'd like to thank you, the viewers, for joining us this week on Newsmakers. I'm Judy Stiles. Hope you can join me again next week at the same time on this station. We'll see you then.